Howard, we're in your tunnel here. It's mainly baby greens, and I know it's always a big discussion of how people flip beds. So you have an interesting strategy. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so my strategy is that I use this as part of the improvement of the soil. So once I harvest out my greens, we still have, the stems, the root systems all holding that soil together. So we don't want to disrupt that or try to cut it into the beds. But in turn, I just come in with compost, add compost on top. It looks kind of messy, looks rugged, but then cover it with a tarp, landscape fabric, something solid that's going to hold in heat and block out the sun. And in about 3 or 4 days, especially during the hot months, it will completely kill everything, and then you can plant right into it. I probably wouldn't plant a baby green behind it because you may have some challenges with your cedar. But if you're using something like a jang that can roll over things, it will work easy in the system. But that's a way of really holding the structure together, flipping your beds without really hassling with the residue. And it's worked really easy. During the colder months, I'll just transition crops. So versus coming back with a baby green, I'll come back with something that I'm going to transplant in, so you can transplant within the residue. So maybe, for example, I'll do like a collard or kale or something else that I'll come in with landscape fabric on top and then plant right in. So therefore the residue stays covered and slowly breaks down, and now it's been a net benefit to the soil and also one less hassle, for me as the farmer. So that's kind of my 2 cents on flipping the baby greens beds.
Is that the only way that you handle baby greens, essentially?
That's really now. Prior to that, I used to cut them into the bed, but once we build up the organic matter, and particularly once our worm population increased, it was just really just devastating to try to till, seeing all the worms that you were bringing up, and just the damage that we were doing. So we realized that, hey, if we can hold off on a few days throughout the fast growing season, then we can easily flip this bed and it'll be a net benefit in terms of the soil quality, and we can still plant some good crops.
All right, so cover with cut it, harvest it low, cover it with compost, cover it with a tarp.
Yep, and let it sit for a couple of days under hot sun, and it will kill everything.
So you don't really get regrowth after that?
The only regrowth I might get is toward the edge of the bed.
Okay.
Because we use the greens harvester, and so on the edge of the bed we don't try to go for that yield. So those plants are a little bit more hardy, but it's simple as coming through, maybe with a stirrup hoe. But if you have a 4-foot fabric, it will cover everything, and it will just destroy it.
So that seems like a great summer strategy. We have a lot of heat here, so
Yes.
3-4 days is really that's all you need.
That's really it, because once the foliage is off, the plant is not really photosynthesizing, so it's trying to regrow from whatever stub is there. But if that's covered and now you're applying heat to it, it's just going to kill the plant. And once that's dead, then you can just come right behind and just plant into it.
Okay, so in this strategy here, we're in middle of November here, so this will basically be like this throughout the winter.
So this house will be like this for most of the winter. If we decide to flip one of these beds, it will be a similar strategy, but because it's not so hot, then we'll probably transition to a different crop. So that way we don't have to worry about regrowth. And then even with these plants, the regrowth is really, really low, because we can even come in with the harvester and then cut it close to the ground where we don't have to worry about, 90% of the regrowth. So for example, like right now we cut pretty high so we can get a regrowth, but if you cut lower to the ground, you take out basically all any chance of the plant regrowing.
Okay, so if you're going to flip the bed, you'd harvest it lower than normal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Or if we decide that it's gonna regrow, we can just come back in with the harvester for 5 minutes and just mow everything down to the ground, and then we're sure, and then just run the torch over it, and then the torch will just finish the job.
Okay, so you do torch it before you put compost, or just depending?
Wintertime we'll do the torch.
Okay.
But summertime it's no torch, it's just...
Okay, and then how much compost do you think you're laying?
So per 50-foot bed, we do 3.5 wheelbarrows of compost.
Okay.
And that works out. For our 100-foot beds, we do 7 wheelbarrows.
Okay.
And that gives us about a 1/2 inch of compost on top. Like really nice level amount of compost.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that, Howard. I know it's always a discussion how to flip baby green beds. So.
Yeah, it's an ongoing conversation.